Kiera, I've got your math module program you turned in. So let's go over it together and I can give you some feedback. All right, here's your template. So going through create a word problem involves calculating the volume and surface area of some three-dimensional object. It could be a cube, a sphere, a cylinder, a cone. Print the description of word problem so the user can read it. Ask the user to enter the information necessary. Okay. Use 3.14 if you have pi. Some of these use pi, so it says just use 3.14 for pi, and then print the results of each calculation. So write the pseudocode. So your pseudocode is pretty simple. Finding the volume and surface area of a sphere using Python. All right. It could be a little more detailed, like, okay, so I would have to use this formula and use this formula since I'm using a sphere. But so volume and surface area. So that means you're on the sphere. So you're using the 4/3 pi r to the third and the 4 times pi times r squared equations. Okay, let's look at, here's your code. I guess that's it right there. And see, then let's look at your questions while we're here to find the volume surface area. What you need to know the volume surface area quickly. You forgot to close the parentheses. And so I'm going to do a word problem before I start programming. All right, so let's put this in a Python window. And I'm wondering, did you run this program? Because looking at it, I'm going to say I'm not going to get anything. And I'm going to take some of these spaces out just so I can fit more of it on the screen to talk about it one time. You have the from math import. That's great. There's your define main. You put a radius of 4.5. And then you press it. But when I run it, let's see what happens. Nothing. Why does nothing happen? I don't know. You didn't debug it. Didn't send it to me to help you debug it, but I can see quite clearly why it doesn't work. You defined your main function, and so Python's like, okay, I'm running the function. Where do I end? When it doesn't know how to end, it just, look, that button's staying pressed down even. It doesn't know what to do. You have to have an end statement. Now it runs. But first problem I see is it said, ask the user to input the information necessary. So should ask the user, what's the radius of your soccer ball or whatever that will, soccer ball. What's the radius of the soccer ball? The user is supposed to input. That's supposed to be an input statement. As the user, I didn't do anything. I just hit run and it all put it out for me. So the radius is 4.5. Okay, so let's see what the answer should have been. Let's test it. It said the surface, no, was that the volume of the surface area? Volume is 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. So if the radius is 4.5, so we should cube that. You use 3.14 for pi and multiply it by 4/3. So we'll see if you got the right calculation. So we'll get our calculator out here and see what your volume should be. So 4/3, 4 divided by 3, that's 1.33, times 3.14 times, and I'll put this in parentheses, 4.5 raised to the power of 3. Close parentheses. So our answer should be volume of 381.51. And our surface area, let's check what our surface area formula was. 4 times pi times radius squared. 4 pi radius squared. So that would be 4 times 3.14 times the radius, which you put as 4.5 squared. So let's see what that equals to see if we calculate that correctly in Python. All right, so let's start with the 4.5 squared. That might be easiest. 4.5 squared. That's 20.25 times 3.14 times 4. So that answer should be 254.34. All right. So there's our two calculations. What did we actually get when we ran our program? 20 and 91. Let's look at our calculations because obviously something is off. Should have been 4/3 pi r to the third and 4 times pi r squared. Let's see. For volume, you calculated just the radius squared. That's not even part of the volume. The volume is supposed to be radius cubed times pi times 4/3. So on the math module here, you're not getting the math right. You didn't follow the formula that was given to you on the template. And you took the surface area, you made the radius cubed, which the surface area is radius squared, but you left off the 4/3 pi on the volume, you left off the 4 pi on the surface area, and you switched the radiuses. So your formulas are all incorrect. Didn't follow. Here's the basic directions right here. You have to follow the directions on the template, and you totally did something different on your formulas. But your print statements are fine. Billy wants to find volume surface area, so we know what the scenario is. And you print out the volume, you print the surface area. They're just not calculated correctly. But you didn't have that main statement, so it didn't do anything. So you have to run your program, have to figure out what's going on. If you can't figure it out, you can always copy it and paste it. Let me see it, and I can tell you, hey, here's your error, or here's your error, whatever's going on. But those are just some of the basics I see there. So looking back at the template, did not use correct formula. No user input. Let's see. Didn't use pi at all. Didn't use pi. Was supposed to with a sphere. You have to use pi. You don't have to with cube, but the other ones all use pi. You did print the results. You got some pseudocode. You got comments with your name, date, and description. You got that up at the top. That's good. Python idle, meaningful names, V and surf A. That's all right. Surf R and V. That's okay. So overall, you got some of it, but you kind of missed the main math because you didn't use the correct formulas there. You did use the power command properly. You just raised them to the wrong power because volume should have been 3. This should have been 2. And then this should have been multiplied by, I'll take the whole thing here, that power. And that has to be multiplied by 4/3, 4 divided by 3, and multiplied by pi, right? Times 3.14. So if we'd have done that, let's run it now. See if that works. 381.51. That's what we calculated on our paper, 381.51. And then this we were supposed to multiply by 4 times pi. So times 4 times 3.14. So if you had those calculations, let's see if that would get the 254.34. Oh, no, we still got way off. Let's see where. Oh, because this is supposed to be squared. This was squared. I didn't change that to squared. Yeah, the radius squared times 4 times 3.14. Now it's the 254.34. So those are the correct calculations there. So that's what you're missing. You're missing a lot of your math and no input statement. This should have been radius equals, could be float, input. What is the radius of your soccer ball? Quote, parentheses, and you wouldn't put the 4 5. So when you run it, oh, I got a bad input somewhere. 11. So I'm wondering if this has to be declared as a float, which means this one probably had to be declared as a float. Oh, no, I don't even need to do that. I can see what the error is. I'll go ahead and declare these as a float, so that's not a bad thing. I have 2 opening parentheses and only 1 closing parentheses. Now let's try it. Oh, doesn't like line 12. Float. Do I make sure I have the right amount of parentheses here? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 1, 2, 3, open. 1, 2. Yeah, that's the right numbers there. Float radius squared times 4 times 3.14. 1, 2. Nope, I have 3 closing and only 2 opening. Let's do that. Now we're good. So if I said 4.5, there's the 381.51. There's a 254. But what if I had a different size soccer ball? I had one that was 6. Now it would calculate that for a 6, radius. So, all right. So that's just what it should have looked more like. Should have had the input statement and the correct calculations. Otherwise, you got a lot of the other stuff in there, but just make sure you're following. Make sure you're following all the instructions and make sure you're double checking that it runs, because this one didn't even run because it didn't have the ending main statement. So I don't know if you didn't copy that by mistake. Maybe it was working when you ran it and you didn't copy all the way down and get that. Maybe you left off your template. I'm not sure, but it wasn't running when I got it. But all right, I'll get this feedback to you, helping you as you go forward. I want you to, be able to fix mistakes going forward, and that's why I make these videos, because it's just easier to explain things this way than just typing up a bunch of stuff. So, all right, if you got any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll see you in class.